bring our buddy here, Jennifer, in the house. Hey, Jennifer, how you doing?
I'm
I'm
doing
doing
great.
great.
How
How
are
are
you?
you? I'm awesome, girl. Thank you so much for joining. I told Jennifer on break I got to ramble a little bit more, and so we're running kind of late for you, and I'm so sorry. Thanks for being patient.
No
No
worries at
worries at
all.
all. And I also want to tell everybody how you were so cool to like jump in and fill this slot on short notice. We had a scheduling conflict happen last minute, and I had a friend of a friend of a friend get to you and introduce me to you,
Yeah.
Jennifer. And we met today and had a little conversation. And I'm excited to tell your story about going through breast cancer. So, why don't we start back at the beginning? How did you find out that you had breast cancer?
So
So
I
I
got
got
out of the
out of the
shower
shower
one
one
day,
day,
just normal,
normal,
and
and
actually
actually
saw a lump protruding out. And it had not been there. It just like it appeared out of nowhere. And I did have implants at the time, which they told me that probably helped make it come out a little bit. Anyway, I showed my husband and was like, "Do you feel this?" And of course, yeah, yeah. And he's like, something's definitely there. So I called my nurse neighbor across the street and she went into nurse mode and she just picked up the phone and made me an appointment for a mammogram. And I had never had one before. So I actually went in getting a mammogram with a known lump. I knew something was there, just didn't know what it was.
Wow, that's really scary. I can't imagine
Yeah,
what it must have felt like to look down and see something just protruding out like that.
yeah.
So did you
But yeah.
so what kind of screenings and different things did they do? Did they do more than one thing right then?
So when I went in for the mammogram, went in, did the 3D, came back out, sat, waited. They called me back for some more pictures, came back out, sat and waited. Then they brought me in for just pictures on the one side, went back out and waited, and then finally got in for just a sonogram with the radiologist. And, I'm sitting there going back and forth, and I'm like, I know I've never had a mammogram, but I know this is probably not normal. And I'm seeing all these women come and go and come and go. And so it started creeping in that something's not right. I'm about to get some bad news, I think. But you still hang on to that hope. And by the time I did go in, they said that they were 99% sure. So you still have that 1% you're hanging on to, but they were pretty positive that it was cancer.
Wow, that's scary. And
Yeah.
so what was it like? Like how did you find out? Like did they call you on the phone and tell you that it was cancer like when they finally ID'd it as such?
So that phone call, I'm still hanging on to that 1% chance that I'm going to be that one that has, survived it and not have cancer. I was actually walking across campus to go teach class, and the doctor's office called. And as I'm walking across the parking lot, they say, we're here with your test results. It is positive for, invasive ductal carcinoma. And I about just fell down. I was like, can you give me a second to get back to my office? I've got to sit down. And so, hearing the words actually come out of somebody's mouth, you have cancer, it's like the world becomes this tunnel that you're in and you're not sure how to get out of it, spiraling out of control. But that's how I officially got the news, was walking across campus.
That's the one thing that we all remember as breast cancer survivors, the moment that that
Mhm.
happened. And I've heard a lot of different scenarios where people are alone or they're in a public place. I remember I met with one woman one time, and she was like at a clothing store in the dressing room changing clothes,
Oh,
and that's
wow.
when she got the call. And just having something like that happen just hits you like a ton of bricks, like a freight train, no matter what you're
Mhm.
doing. And it's just so shocking to get that kind of news. Um, were you scared right then?
I was very scared. And actually, some of the first thoughts I had were, I was a newlywed at the time. I had only been married 10 months. Um, so I'm like, oh my gosh, what's he gonna say? What's gonna happen? Is he gonna leave? Also, I'd been a single mom for years, and my son was in college at the time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we were really close. Is he gonna quit school, come and take care of me? Because he would. And then I was working on my PhD at the time, and I'm like, how am I've got to get this stuff done. I'm not supposed to be the sick one. I'm supposed to be the one that takes care of everybody else. So it was scary in the sense that, what's everybody going to say and do? How am I going to do this? How am I going to keep working and going to school and taking care of my family? And of course, you hear that C word and you're like, does this mean I'm going to die? Like, what does this mean
Yeah,
exactly?
that's like the
So
exact
yeah,
first thing you go to, isn't it? It's like
yeah,
you instantly think
hmm,
you're gonna die. It's just, I
yes,
guess we're so almost like trained to think that way when it comes to cancer ever since we were little.
yes,
Cancer is like a death sentence. It's just kind of like,
yes.
because all you can
And
hear is there's no cure. You're just like, there's no cure.
yes. And my dad had passed away years ago from colon cancer, but when I told my mom, she was like, she immediately attached the death sentence because cancer means death. And so, then I'm like, oh my gosh, now my mother thinks I'm going to die. Am I going to die? So, but I didn't. I'm here. So,
Thank God. And what year were you diagnosed again?
2014.
2014.
And it was a very rough ride.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what happened next. You met a medical team, you put a medical team together. What was
Yes.
next?
So once I got everything in place, and none of this happens at the pace you want it to. You wanted all the surgeries and the doctors and the medicines and the plans yesterday. But once you get there, I did have a double mastectomy. In my head, which was a good choice at the time. I did have 5 tumors on one side and a bunch of cysts on the other. But one
Whoa,
of the
did you?
first option was
So
getting a
sorry,
lumpectomy.
you said
Yeah.
five tumors on one side. Is that what you
On the
said?
cancer side, yes.
What? But
And then
were they? Sorry, I'm just like.
no, you're
Are you
fine.
saying that they were all that they were all malignant, or were some of them
Yes,
benign? Or
yes,
wow.
yes, and it had spread into my lymph nodes
Oh
by
my
that time as
gosh.
well.
So
So,
I gotta ask you real fast. I know that you
okay,
told us how you found your breast cancer, but
uh-huh.
were you doing any kind of like just annual screening or self exams prior to
No,
that? Nothing
I
like that.
I was 42 years old and
Hmm.
I had never had a mammogram.
Yeah, yeah,
And I really didn't. I'll be honest, I didn't check because
yeah,
you had that mindset of, oh, that won't happen to
yeah.
me,
It won't happen to me.
So
Exactly.
yeah. So no, I never until and I think, I look to, divine intervention that, okay, Jennifer's not checking herself. We're just going to make it pop out so she sees it and get something done about it.
Right,
It was
right,
very slow growing. I do know that. So it'd probably been there for years and it just finally gotten to the point that I could physically see it and
right,
feel it.
right.
So a
Wow.
mastectomy, double mastectomy was a good choice for me. And even if it hadn't have been, if I was like a candidate for just one side or a lumpectomy, I probably would have went with a double mastectomy anyway, because there is no way I wanted to have to go through all that more than once. So I wanted it to be a one and done kind of deal. So
Yeah.
take them both, get them gone. I personally did not want them anymore. I didn't want any of that attached to my body anymore.
You know,
So I did that. Yeah.
you and I are the same way on that. It's funny how we were talking at the beginning for those just joining. Jennifer and I just met today, and
Hmm.
so I'm learning her story, and she's gonna kind of learn some of my story as we go too. Because Jennifer, I had a double mastectomy as well, and I was of
Okay.
the same mindset that it was like, want to get it over and done with, and not have to worry about having breast cancer again. If you don't have breasts, it's harder to have breast cancer. Is kind of how I was
Yes.
looking at it anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, keep taking.
So then 2 weeks after the mastectomy, my skin started necrosing on the cancer side. So the had to go back in, get the tissue expander removed, put another one in. Then in January, because that was in October of 2014. So come January, I got another infection, same thing. And we ended up, to make this a little shorter, we ended up taking the expander fully out on the cancer side and deflating the other side and just let my body heal, because chemo was not my friend at all. I really thought it was the chemo that was probably going to kill me. It was bad. Kept getting lots of infections. Until last year, I'd had a total of 11 surgeries and procedures to try to put this Humpty Dumpty back together again. Um, we let my body rest. I considered myself a bad science experiment at most times. I would have drain tubes. I'd taken my port out at the first chance possible, so I had to get a PICC line. I was bald. I was too skinny. I had a concave indention from the removed expander on one side, a deflated one on the other side, and I just thought, there's no way I'm ever going to physically or mentally recover from this. But again, I have. I powered through. So I had another surgery a few year ago. Some cysts came up on my ovaries, and so we cleaned house and I did a full hysterectomy. They were not malignant; they were benign, but I did have that done too.
So how old were you when you had the hysterectomy? Were you still 42 or was this like a
No,
year
it was
later?
just a year. It was right before COVID, so October of 2019.
Wow. And so your decision for that was sort of the same mindset. It was like, look, I don't want to take any chances. You're like, I'm done. I
Yes,
don't need this anymore and just go ahead
I
and
don't. I didn't need the parts anymore. He said my doctor said that these cysts have to come out, especially given your breast cancer history, and so he's like, while we're in there, I mean, just to save you from any scares of all these other cancers, uterine cancer or all this. What if do you want to take it all out? And I went, I'm not having any more children. I do not need these parts anymore. So take them out. And that gets rid of all those scares. And I don't have to worry about those anymore.
yeah, that's no lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jennifer, I've because even just myself being almost 11 years cancer free, anytime there's weird
Yay.
like little cysts or whatever on my ovaries or anything like that, it's like time for an investigation, and then that takes you through a few months before you can rule everything out and feel good about it and get peace of mind and just not having to worry about that at all. There's got to be a large amount
Yes.
of peace of mind for you for that for
And it's
sure.
funny you talk about that because just about a month ago, I kind of like raised my arm up and went like this and felt a knot. And this is my cancer side. And talk about having a complete and utter meltdown. I did. PTSD, real thing, real thing. I thought, oh my gosh, it's back or it's in my lymph nodes. I mean, it all just came flooding back.
Well, yeah, like
And
panic, almost like panic, right? Yeah.
yes, I mean, and the hysterectomy cysts that was scary, but I think because it was here on this cancer side again, close to the scene of the crime, as I like to call it, it just made it scarier for whatever reason. But turns out it was just some scar tissue that I'd lost some weight and felt it and hadn't felt it before. So all that is good as well.
Oh my
So, but
god.
yes, I had a complete meltdown. Went in for a sonogram, everything. I was like, I got to know. I can't just
Yeah.
let that sit there. And I'm like, I'm sorry if I cried wolf and wasted y'all's time with the sonogram. And they're like, no, you did what you needed to
Yeah.
do. People could come do this all the time because it's scary for us when something is not right.
It totally is. And I mean, and that's the thing is you do have to take charge of your own health as best you
Hmm.
can because no one's gonna work or be a bigger advocate for your health than you are. So you just
That's
sort of
right.
have to take it by the reins. And there's been plenty of people that I've talked to, Jennifer, that have had something come up and maybe the doctor's just kind of dismissive and they kind of keep driving it and then find
Hmm.
out that it is a real issue. So it's always better just to drive it all the way through, make sure everything's good, and then just, put it in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, I think, we are so appreciative of doctors and their knowledge and their caregiving, but we also know ourselves a little better, so we can, when we know when something's not right in our body. And so having doctors that will listen is very important.
Yeah, totally. You're right. So, okay. So we kind of went from the double mastectomy. You talked about expanders. You had all those crazy
Mhm.
issues with that. We jumped into the
Yes,
hysterectomy. Did you have reconstruction then?
I
Okay.
did. I had reconstruction. So I am, and actually did that electively. Well, I did it, and then we decided the size and the shape wasn't quite right. So I went back in and did a different shape, and all is well and good there. So
How many surgeries was it for the reconstruction total?
let's see, probably if you include all the infections and taking things in and out of the now 12 surgeries and procedure, it was probably 6 or 7 of those were
Wow.
just it was all reconstruction. It was basically all reconstruction related, other than like ports in and out and pick lines and stuff like that. Just because I kept getting infections and my body couldn't take it. And we finally just said, I had a great doctor, and I finally just said, or we said as a team, we need to let my body heal. And so I went with nothing in that concave hole for, oh gosh, 6 months to a year till I could recover from the chemo, because that
Wow.
was a beast, a
Yeah.
true beast.
Yeah. I love talking about the details of this because some people who are newly diagnosed, I think it's really important for them to understand the big picture. And then also for
Yes.
folks who maybe have family members who've gone through this, or
Mhm.
friends, just to have a better understanding for everything it is that you go through. Because I don't think a lot of people realize how many surgeries reconstruction can turn into. And so I think it's
Yeah.
really great to share that information. And the other part that people don't understand is a lot of the reconstructive surgeries you have to go back and have them redone like
Mhm.
every couple of years, right? Or how many years is it for
Mhm.
you?
It's been, well, since my last one was in 2016, no, 17. So, I mean, it's been 3 or 4 years since that one. So, I go back regularly for checkups and things like that just to make sure that they are, because you don't have any breast tissue anymore. So, it's kind of, they're not like getting your normal implants. So, you just got to make sure that they're sitting in the right spot, they're holding up, they're not hardening, things like that. So, I do go back yearly to make sure everything's okay with them.
Gotcha. And so that's just a breast surgeon. That's not your oncologist, right?
Yes, right. I go to my oncologist every 3 months. I know some people go like you start at 3 months, then you do 6, and then a year or whatever, but I've had such a struggle with a lot of stuff and side effects from various things that he continues now, 7 years later to still see me every 3 months.
They're
So,
keeping a close eye on you.
they are for
I,
sure.
I'm curious, did you ever consider not having reconstruction at all? Was that even a thought or an option?
No, that was not even an option for me, and I'll tell you why. I was young, I mean, 42, but I was a newlywed, I still felt young, I was still very active, and it had wrecked my life so much. Because really, if anything could have went wrong, it did in my situation, which does not happen to everybody, but in my case, it did. I wanted to be as close to normal again as possible. And so I didn't care how long it took, how many surgeries it was going to take. I wanted to look and feel as normal again as possible. Not necessarily for anybody else, but for me. I wanted to feel normal for me.
I think that's really important. I mean, those
Yeah.
decisions are very personal, and it's important that you make the right decision for you at that point in time. So,
And I've met lots of ladies that are like, I didn't want to do that, and they're perfectly happy that way. So you do have to do what is good for your overall sense of well-being, your self-esteem, all those kinds of things.
absolutely. So, we talked about a lot of surgeries. I haven't kept count, but I know that there was the 6 breast related
There's a
surgeries.
total of 12,
Wow.
to date.
Wow. And that's over 7 years total because you were diagnosed in,
Yes.
in 2014, at
Yes.
42.
Mhm.
After you had your double mastectomy, you did mention that you had chemo because you had problems with chemo. What kind of chemo did you have?
You know, I that's the one I did not have the red devil that people talk about. I cannot remember the exact medications I have, which is bad. I think I just tried to block most of that out, but it's one of the more common ones, whatever, I can't even think of the names right now, but one of the more common treatments. But I had to also get shots the day after chemo to, speed up my blood cell count, which hurt my bones. I got the mouth sores really bad. But again, chemo is one of those things that it affects everybody differently. So since chemo, I'm lactose intolerant. So, no cheese and ice cream for me since then.
Wow,
Um,
how did that? I
yeah,
wonder why it caused that for you. I haven't heard of that before. I mean,
I don't know.
although I've heard of a zillion different things happening, I just haven't heard of that
Yeah,
one. So,
Well, even my oncologist is like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'm serious. I cannot eat dairy anymore without getting sick, and it's only been since chemo." So, and I've had some other digestive issues since chemo, and of course, we do like to blame everything on chemo, but
It
this
is
is
easy
truly
to
a case
do.
that if something goes bad, it's chemo's fault, and it's going to
Right.
be that way forever. So I'm gonna
Right.
use that card whenever. But it seriously, it was since chemo that I can't do dairy.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
I
because
have to
see,
watch my gluten. I mean, it's just really messed up my digestive system.
well, and it does make sense because chemo kills fast moving cells, and that's in your
Hmm.
digestive system has a lot of fast moving
Hmm.
cells. That's why people used to get
Hmm.
sick a lot with that and everything.
Yeah.
So I was just telling somebody today because my allergies are bad, and after I finished chemo, I actually had to do immunotherapy for my allergies because my
Oh
allergies were
wow.
made worse from chemo, and even to this day, I have them worse. But the immunotherapy has helped a lot, but whenever they start to get triggered, my asthma acts up really badly, and
Oh
didn't
wow.
used to have that problem. I've had asthma my whole life, but
Yeah.
it's just crazy how it does affect you in a multitude of ways, and it affects
Hmm.
everybody differently too. And talking about the Neulasta shot, the shot that you got after your
Yes.
chemo, where it actually increases your white blood cell count because your
Hmm.
white blood cell count goes way low during chemo,
Yes.
and some people don't have problems with it. I had the same problems as you did, where my bones just hurt so bad,
Mm,
and in fact, that was probably one of the worst parts about the chemo was that shot for me because my bones would
yeah.
hurt so bad, so severely.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yes.
through the process, did you lose your hair?
Oh yes. I was bald. I was bald. Um, which that was traumatic. That they kind of give you a timeline of when you might start losing it. And so I kept doing the pull test all the time. And then one day I was driving to the store and I pulled and a chunk came out. And of course, driving's not when you want that moment to happen, but it did. I had to pull over and just lose my mind and cry and call everybody. And I tried for a while to keep it, so I'd wear like a like a skull cap or something to bed, and you'd wake up and there's still hair everywhere, and the drain was full. And I think that, and I already cut my hair off really short just to prepare, but I don't think anything really does prepare you for that moment. And I would honestly say before it even falls out, just shave it, just take it off. It was more liberating, and even though it was traumatic, because hair is part of who we are. It's part of our expression, how you fix and color and the things you do with your hair. It's just part of your identity, and to lose that is really hard. And but still, after it was done, I didn't have to worry about it so much. And um, I wish I'd actually shaved it off a lot sooner than I did. But my husband, we made an event out of it. My neighbors came over, and a friend took me out for drinks beforehand, and
Right.
then my husband shaved my head. So
Yeah, I did something similar. I shaved my head like within a few days of it starting to fall out. I had like my hair in a
yeah.
ponytail, and I went to pull the rubber band out, and a lot of the hair came out with the rubber band, and that's when I made the call immediately, and
Yeah.
we ended up giving me a mohawk.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, the first time, and so it was actually kind of fun. And then a week later, did you have that problem where your head like hurt when your hair started falling out, almost like a sunburn or just like really
No, mine
tender?
didn't do that.
My god, it
Mm-mm.
did for me.
Mm-mm.
Awful. So
I
I was
hear
like,
that happens a lot, but
yeah,
yeah, I didn't
it
have that.
shaving it helped with that pain. So that was
Yeah.
really good. So that was
I did,
hard.
I had fun with my hair when it came back in, when it got just long enough to color. We were going on a family vacation to California, and I decided, I'm probably never have it this short again, but I want to have fun with it while I can. And we dyed it that platinum white blonde. And so I had it, it's about an inch long and platinum white blonde, and I had so much fun with that hairdo.
You're gonna have to send
Um,
me pictures of that. I want to
I
see.
will,
I bet that looked
I
really
will.
cool. I'm like
It,
picturing
it was a lot of fun.
I'm like
Yeah,
picturing pink or something, like
yeah.
the artist
Yes,
pink.
yes,
Like I'm like, I bet you
yes.
looked really cool.
Yeah, I'll send you some.
Yeah. So
I actually have a Facebook page that I started just to keep everybody connected instead of sitting
oh,
and uh, because I was spending hours trying to update everybody, and I
Right.
was like, okay, I'm going to start a big group page. Anyway, it's called Jen's Journey, and I have a lot of those pictures on there, so I'll add you to it so you can
Oh
go look
yeah,
through my
very cool.
pictures and stuff. Yeah.
That's a great idea. You know, when I was going through it, I guess maybe Facebook wasn't as big as it is
Hmm.
now, and I just did
Yeah.
one of those Caring Bridge pages, and that's super common for people to
Hmm.
do stuff like
Hmm.
that. But you're right, it's almost overwhelming to try to keep everybody posted as to what's going on and everything like that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of helpful to be able to capture it that way and get the word out
Yeah.
that way.
And I still update, sometimes when I'm doing things or for a checkup, just because I do have some people on there that I've been connected with that are just survivors or have been recently diagnosed. And with people that know my story, they're like, can she or he join your page to kind of see, what you went through? And it's helpful to just say, things get better, things you're gonna survive this, or here's what happened to me and here's where I'm at today. And just kind of lets people follow the full journey, not just the bad stuff, but the good stuff too.
Yeah, because it actually does exist, and people don't realize
It
that.
does.
There are a few things that are very good. One of the biggest things, obviously, is perspective. It really helps you gain perspective and brings you closer to those people who are important to you in
Hmm.
your life.
Hmm.
Definitely does that. I was curious when you're talking, I was thinking, did you change anything after your diagnosis? Like, change anything about your life? Did you feel like, I know some people go through a thing where they're like, well, I felt like I needed to make this change. And so they make a change after they go through breast cancer, maybe a nutritional or a health journey, or maybe something else.
So but more afterwards, because I was a regular exerciser. I ate right, which, people ask me questions like, did you eat bad foods, or did you, carry your phone in your bra, that kind of stuff, is a reason for it. I was like, I'm a healthy eater other than my sodas and, my adult beverages. Um, and exercise regularly. So I didn't do change anything as far as health was concerned. I think if anything, it made me just appreciate the things I had in life more, like things that maybe I thought were a big deal are no longer a big deal. um, I know what a big deal is now. So I just appreciate stuff more, and I probably love a little bigger and love harder and love more than maybe I did before. But during it, I think I was just so focused on survival, as far as, what was my husband going to do, what were all the kids going to do, and finishing my PhD and doing all that, that I don't think I really thought about changing any other aspects of my life.
I love what you said though, that you just love bigger now. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful statement. I'm like, I gotta just like clip that out of this interview and like put it everywhere. I'll be like, make a
Go right
montage, and
ahead.
yeah, I'll be like, Jen says, love bigger. It's just like, I mean, this
Yeah.
is so cool because everybody thinks going through breast cancer. I mean, it is awful. Obviously, don't get us wrong, but um,
Right.
there are so many beautiful things that you can take away from having gone through it. So,
Well, I do. I have a tattoo here on my wrist, and it represents a lot of things. It just says joy with angel wings. And one of my phrases that I live by is to not let things or people steal your joy. So I don't let people steal my joy, and I don't let things like cancer steal my joy, because there's still a lot to be thankful and joyful about, even during it.
man, you were wrapping this up so nice. I'm like, what if I cry? I'm like, what if I cry while
Go
she's
right ahead.
saying
I
that?
always
No,
cry. I always cry.
no, it's so beautiful. I'm so glad that you shared that with everybody. Every time we have somebody on, I know it is helping someone out there who's watching right now, whether they're going through breast cancer or something else, just to give
Mhm.
them hope and inspiration. And I'm just so thankful that you could share that with everyone today, Jennifer.
I
Really
think one of
am.
the top 5 questions we ask another survivor as a new diagnosis. One of the top 5 questions you ask another survivor is, "How long have you been a survivor?" Because you want that goal to look forward to. So when I see people like you that are 11 years out or 15 years out and on down the road, it's like, I'm gonna be a warrior forever, just like them.
Oh, I love that. Stop it. I think you're trying to make me cry at this point. Be cool, man. Be cool. Oh, that's so awesome. I know exactly how you feel too, because when I was first diagnosed, I had to find somebody to kind of latch onto. I had triple negative breast cancer, which is a more rare and aggressive form of breast cancer. And
my hairdresser went through that.
yeah, and at first it was hard to find somebody who had it, and it made me think that they had all passed. And so I was really panicked.
No.
Yeah, and so that one person, her name is Erin, she will always forever be my mentor, and as long as she's okay, I'm okay. You know, and so she's like, I think 4 or 5 years ahead of me in her cancer-free journey, and yeah, she's just an inspiration to me.
Well, I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
I want to say that my husband was the best caregiver ever. Even though our first year of wedded bliss was with me with cancer, he's still around to this day and fabulous. My son is fabulous. My bonus kids are fabulous. And I did finish my PhD. So
woohoo! That's so awesome, man. Rockstar, raise a roof, slaying dragons, man. You are slaying dragons. Well, Jennifer, you're gonna have to come back again and update us on the latest and see how you're doing. And we would love to have you. I think I sent you the link, and hopefully you've joined the Survivors Rock of Breast Cancer Kids Ticket community.
Absolutely.
Our survivors group, and we can all share our stories over there and lift each other up and help support one another and just kind of keep, you know, paying it forward, right? You know?
That's right.
Like paying it forward. That's what we got to do. So thank you so much for joining tonight, Jennifer. Let's keep in touch and have you on again sometime soon, okay?
Sounds great.
Take care, girl.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye. Guys, give it up for our girl Jennifer.